Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the sit down. Today's episode is about estates. So, if you are in a situation where you happen to be dealing with a family member, a friend, or any of your close, acquaintances, estates, this episode is specifically for you. And I will tell you this is that estates are probably one of your higher level type of transactions. And I say this with the most tact is that when you're dealing with estates, there are a lot of steps. And this is not something that you can play leapfrog with. Now, in an estate, what happens is ultimately, let's say, person passes. Now, option A is person passes, they leave a last will and testament, and this is something that ultimately all people should think about considering doing, sitting down with an attorney and ultimately getting something down on paper. Option A, person passes, has a last will and testament, and it's outlined what exactly happens with their assets, to include who has the authority over the estate. Option B is a little bit wilder in the sense that person passes, they don't have a will, and ultimately now we get into a position where there's a property and who's responsible for it, who has the authority under, who has the authority to ultimately sell this property, who has the authority, who has claim to this property, because nothing was outlined. Now, at that point, you need to reach out to an estate attorney, and they are going to get you in the right direction because there are steps you need to take in order to get this property sold. Now, if you do not have a last will and testament, you have to basically go to what's called surrogate court, and surrogate court is going to get you a letter of testamentary. Now, this is going to basically assign you to the estate and make you an administrator. So you're going to be an administrator of the estate. Now, with a last will and testament, you are not an administrator, you are an executor or executrix, depending on gender. Now, that's the two roads you're going to take with estates. Either will, and this is the thing, if you are an agent or you are, wondering if you have the authority to sell the estate, you need to have a last will and testament. That would give you the authority to sell the property if it outlines your ability to basically sign a listing agreement. It would have to say that such and such has the ability to sign property such and such in the will. And that's something that you need to talk to an attorney with. At least show your real estate agent who you're working with. They need to see that before you start signing a contract. And if they don't have the last will and testament, they need to make sure that they do have the letters of testamentary to include release of estate tax lien. Those are very crucial things when it comes to real estate. And again, if you are in a situation where you're dealing with an estate, make sure you are talking to the right people, because this is not something that you can play leapfrog with. It's something that you have to go through the process step by step in order to make sure it's done properly, because ultimately you might not necessarily have the authority to sign or sell the property. So ultimately you don't want to be committing fraud either. You want to make sure that you have the power and the authority to sign these documents on behalf of someone who had passed. So just make sure that if you have any questions with this, and this is a pretty lengthy topic, it's probably one you could probably have a college course on, is estates just in themselves. This is ultimately, it's one of the hardest aspects of real estate, but it's something that if you are doing, make sure you line up your team right of people who are experienced in estates, because that is ultimately going to make the difference between getting you to a position where you can sell or you're just going to sit around with it. So if you are an executor and you don't understand this process, or somebody you know had passed and you're dealing with an estate situation, please reach out, ask questions, because there are teams, including my own, that do work with these on a regular basis. And it's important to understand the process well and just know that as soon as you get in that situation, reach out just to try and make it a little bit easier, because ultimately there isn't really a course. There isn't a course on this. It's honestly, it's asking people to guide you and take you to that direction. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. And as always, stay free.